Winter arrived early in 1971, wrapping the Korean Peninsula in a silence that felt more threatening than comforting. Along the Demilitarized Zone, where two nations stood frozen in an uneasy ceasefire, the mountains disappeared beneath dense curtains of fog. Frost clung to rusted barbed wire, abandoned guard posts, and the skeletal remains of villages emptied decades earlier during the Korean War. The land itself seemed to remember the blood that had soaked into its soil. Captain Kang Min-jae adjusted the headphones over his ears inside an isolated South Korean listening station carved into the side of a mountain overlooking the DMZ. For nearly 6 years he had monitored radio frequencies that stretched across the border. Most nights were predictable: routine military chatter, propaganda broadcasts, and encrypted transmissions impossible to decipher. Yet tonight, something was different. A signal appeared on the spectrum at precisely 2:17. 3 short bursts. Too long. Then silence. The sequence repeated exactly every 15 minutes. Min-jae scribbled the pattern into his notebook before forwarding it to headquarters. The code did not match any North Korean military encryption his team had catalogued. Stranger still, the transmission originated from somewhere deep inside the northern mountains before vanishing as quickly as it had arrived. His commanding officer dismissed it as atmospheric interference. Min-jae disagreed. For years he had trusted instinct more than official reports. His instincts had never failed. Across the border, hidden beneath reinforced concrete and steel, Major Hyun-soo stared at a wall of blinking radio equipment inside an underground command center. His operators had intercepted the same mysterious signal. Unlike his superiors, Ri recognized one unsettling detail. The transmission was using fragments of an encryption system abandoned years earlier by military intelligence. Someone wanted both sides to hear it. His commander ordered the message ignored. Ri quietly copied every intercepted burst into a notebook before locking it inside his desk. He had learned long ago that the most dangerous secrets were usually the ones everyone insisted did not exist. Neither officer knew they shared something beyond suspicion. Both had grown up before Korea became an endless line dividing families. Min-jae still remembered his grandmother setting an extra bowl at dinner each New Year's Day for relatives trapped somewhere in the north. Ri remembered his mother crying whenever she unfolded an old family photograph that included cousins she would never see again. Politics had transformed memories into forbidden subjects. History had turned neighbors into enemies. Yet the mountains remained unchanged. 3 days later, another transmission arrived. This time it carried coordinates. Min-jae assembled a reconnaissance team before sunrise. They climbed frozen ridges overlooking the designated location, moving carefully through forests where every snapping branch echoed like gunfire. Below them stood an abandoned farming village untouched since the war. Collapsed roofs rested beneath heavy snow. Broken wells protruded from frozen earth. Everything appeared lifeless. Until one chimney released a thin stream of smoke. Min-jae signaled his men to hold position. Through binoculars he watched 2 unidentified figures carrying heavy metal cases into the ruined building. Neither wore North Korean military uniforms. One carried foreign-made communications equipment rarely seen anywhere near the border. "This doesn't belong here," whispered his sergeant. Min-jae nodded. Neither man spoke again. Several kilometers away, Hyun-soo observed the same village through a Soviet-made field telescope from a concealed observation post. His patrol had been tracking unidentified personnel for 2 days. Official records claimed no military operation existed within this sector. Yet strangers had arrived under cover of darkness. Even more troubling, they answered to no regional commander. Ri radioed headquarters requesting authorization to investigate. Permission was denied within minutes. The order included an unusual instruction. Return immediately. Do not approach the village. Destroy all field notes. Ri lowered the receiver slowly. No experienced intelligence officer ignored evidence. Someone above him feared what might be discovered. That evening, Min-jae examined photographs captured during reconnaissance. One image caught his attention. A crate partially exposed beneath a torn canvas carried faded English lettering from military surplus shipped decades earlier. Beside it rested Soviet communication components. American containers. Soviet electronics. North Korean territory. Nothing fit together. He spread maps across his desk, marking every mysterious transmission since the first signal. A pattern emerged. Every location formed a corridor leading directly toward one isolated section of the DMZ. Not toward an invasion route. Toward an abandoned infiltration tunnel officially declared collapsed years ago. His pulse quickened. If the tunnel remained open, someone could move personnel across the border without either army realizing it. Across the frontier, Ri reached the same conclusion. Comparing intercepted coordinates with outdated engineering records, he discovered references to a forgotten underground passage sealed after the war. Except the maintenance reports had vanished from military archives. Someone had erased them. He locked the office door and removed an old blueprint hidden behind a filing cabinet. The tunnel extended farther than official maps admitted. Far enough to cross beneath both nations' defensive lines. Far enough to transport explosives without detection. Ri stared at the faded drawing. For the first time in his career, he feared the greatest threat to Korea did not come from the enemy across the border. It came from shadows moving silently beneath both of them. The following night, Captain Kang Min-jae entered the forgotten tunnel with only 2 trusted operatives. Their flashlights carved narrow beams through damp darkness, revealing cracked concrete walls stained by decades of moisture. Rusted rails disappeared into the distance, and abandoned electrical cables hung like vines from the ceiling. Every step echoed through the passage, reminding them that even whispers could become fatal. Several kilometers away, Major Hyun-soo descended into the same tunnel from the northern entrance. He had ignored direct orders, telling his patrol he was inspecting old defensive infrastructure. Deep inside, he found fresh boot prints, recently installed wiring, and wooden crates marked with false agricultural labels. Opening one carefully, he discovered military explosives packed beside forged intelligence documents written in both Korean dialects. The papers falsely accused each government of preparing an imminent surprise attack. Ri's heart sank. The conspiracy was real. Before he could examine more evidence, footsteps echoed ahead. Ri extinguished his flashlight and pressed against the cold wall. Moments later, Min-jae's team emerged from the darkness. Both officers raised their weapons simultaneously. For several silent seconds, neither moved. They recognized each other's uniforms immediately. Enemies by duty. Strangers by circumstance. Then distant voices echoed through the tunnel. A third group was approaching. Without exchanging a word, both officers instinctively concealed themselves behind abandoned machinery. The newcomers wore mismatched uniforms without national insignia. They spoke in carefully rehearsed accents, switching between northern and southern dialects. Their leader unfolded a map showing observation posts on both sides of the DMZ. "The explosion begins here," he whispered. "They will blame each other before sunrise." Another man nodded. "Once artillery responds, there will be no stopping the escalation." The conspirators continued deeper into the tunnel, unaware they had been overheard. When the voices faded, Min-jae slowly lowered his rifle. "So it wasn't your army," he said quietly. Ri answered with equal caution. "No." Neither trusted the other completely, but the evidence before them left little room for doubt. They followed the conspirators from opposite sides of the tunnel, maintaining enough distance to remain unseen. Along the way they discovered communication equipment capable of transmitting false military orders, stolen identification papers from both governments, and demolition charges positioned beneath structural supports. The plan was devastatingly simple: trigger an explosion, fabricate evidence, and allow fear to ignite another war. As midnight approached, the conspirators reached an abandoned observation bunker overlooking the DMZ. Outside, heavy snow muffled every sound. The border was almost invisible beneath drifting fog. One conspirator armed the primary explosive while another prepared a powerful radio transmitter program to broadcast forged emergency orders to military units on both sides. Min-jae realized they had only minutes. Ri understood the same. Without discussion, both acted. Min-jae disabled the transmitter with a precise rifle shot through a narrow ventilation opening. The bunker erupted into confusion. At the same instant, Ri rushed forward, tackling the explosive specialist before the detonator could be activated. Gunfire shattered the silence. Snow exploded into white clouds as bullets struck frozen ground. Min-jae pulled a wounded operative behind a stone wall while returning controlled fire. Ri fought hand-to-hand inside the bunker, forcing the detonator away from its operator. The device skidded across the floor. One conspirator lunged toward it. Min-jae burst through the entrance and kicked the detonator into a drainage channel just before it could be recovered. The remaining conspirators fled into the surrounding forest. Neither officer pursued them. The explosives remained armed. Red indicator lights flashed steadily. There was barely enough time. Working together with remarkable efficiency, Min-jae and Ri examined the unfamiliar triggering mechanism. Several wires had been intentionally arranged to confuse anyone attempting to disarm it. Finally, Ri recognized a secondary timing circuit hidden beneath the casing. "Cut the blue wire," he said. Min-jae hesitated for only a heartbeat before following the instruction. The timer stopped. Silence returned. Neither man smiled. They knew this victory would never become public. Within minutes, searchlights swept across the mountains as patrols from both nations rushed toward the explosion site that never exploded. There was no time for conversation. Ri gathered the forged documents. Min-jae collected fragments of the destroyed transmitter. Each understood that presenting only part of the evidence might prevent hardliners from manipulating the truth again. They stood facing one another beneath falling snow. For the first and only time, they exchanged respectful nods instead of threats. Then each disappeared toward his own side of the border before reinforcements arrived. Weeks later, official reports described the night's events as an unsuccessful smuggling operation involving unidentified infiltrators. The mysterious radio transmissions ceased forever. The abandoned tunnel was permanently sealed beneath tons of reinforced concrete. Neither Captain Kang Min-jae nor Major Ri Hyun-soo received medals. Neither reported the full truth. Some secrets were too dangerous to survive official history. Years passed. Governments changed. Generals retired. The Cold War slowly drifted toward its conclusion, yet the Korean Peninsula remained divided by fences, watchtowers, and memories stronger than steel. One quiet winter morning, long after the crisis had faded into forgotten archives, Min-jae stood alone at a southern observation post watching the first sunlight spread across the mountains. Far beyond the mist, unseen but somehow certain, he imagined another officer standing on the opposite ridge beneath the same sunrise. No radio transmitted between them. No treaty united them. Only silence. Only memory. Only the fragile understanding that peace sometimes survives because ordinary people choose courage over hatred, even when history never learns their names. The border remained. But for one forgotten night beneath frozen mountains, two enemies had protected the same homeland from different sides of the same scar.